and I'm actually worked as a preschool teacher for 25 years before I became a researcher. So please give an applause to the preschool teachers in the back. In my opinion. So today I will talk about the philosophies in Swedish early childhood education and care, about EDUCARE, about democracy, about equality, and about sustainable development. Whoops. Yep. So first of all, I will give you a short historical background. And I will say something on the topic that education and practice and teachers' obligation according to the national curriculum of preschool and the practice in Sweden, actually very tight links between those. So I should maybe tell you that I'm also working at the preschool teacher education in Gothenburg with the Swedish government and the Ministry of Education in Sweden, writing the curriculum. Then I will talk about some of the contemporary philosophies in Swedish early childhood education, which was the topic, the lovely topic I was given from the organizers here. That would be about EDUCARE, about democracy, children's rights and children's influence, equality, equity, and sustainable development. So, here is a picture from the very first kindergarten in Sweden. And as very many kindergartens or early childhood education and care settings, I imagine, are actually influenced by Fröbel. How is it here in Indonesia? Is it the case here as well? Are you inspired by Fröbel from the beginning, I mean? You can do a research on that afterwards. I've been to a couple of early childhood education settings around the world, and when I talk to people there, it's very often the case that Fröbel is an inspiration for us all. So sometimes we tend to talk about the Swedish early childhood education, maybe the Indonesian early childhood education, Chinese, whatever, like if there were separate cultures. But one of the main points I will do today is, so that I will share with you, is that actually I think that there is a lot of things that connect us. There are some philosophies that are actually in a lot of contexts. Maybe we have specific cultures in many countries, and Fröbel has been extremely influenced for many of us. So, Fröbel, he saw children as nature and kindergarten as something that should be something different than school. That preschool should focus on the needs of young children. And he was talking about the combination of care, play, and learning. In Sweden, then, the Moberg sisters, they started the first kindergarten inspired by Fröbel's. And in the 19th century. And then we have the kindergartens, where there was about play and learning, and very often for the middle class families. Then for working class families, were very often at that time attending the nurseries. So where they had a focus on care and moral education. So if we move a little bit forward here, another big inspiration was Anna Freud. And she brought forward the theories on children's development and the importance of high-quality preschool teachers. At this time, early childhood education and care in Sweden was led, organized, and developed actually by women from the preschool teacher profession itself. It has always been the preschool teachers that sort of have developed their own practices. Then in the 1960s to the 80s, Here's two very influential people. First one, Alva Myrdal. She very much brought forward children's and also women's rights, as you were talking about before. And she said, they were fighting for a long time to get the early childhood education and care system that we have in Sweden today. So she said there are no reasons to deny that the way to the right path of early childhood education and care in Sweden has been a long one, full of struggles. Olof Palme was one of the most influential prime ministers that we have had in Sweden. And when he was the Minister of Education, he said that in the 1960s, 70s, he said that it's now a window of opportunities for the people in Sweden. We now have enough money to promote early childhood education and care for almost all children in Sweden. So there was a massive promotion of early childhood education and care in the 1970s. And actually, today, almost all children in Sweden attend an early childhood education setting, 95% of all children in Sweden. In the 1970s, we had some very influential theorists. We had, maybe you heard of Jean Piaget and Erikson. Then it was a lot of developmental theories. But at that time, eventually it became a great critique on the general stage theories and children as passive. So in the late 90s, another theorist was pushed forward and became very influential for our policy documents. So you can see the link between the theorists and the policy documents. That was Lev Vygotsky and his social cultural theories. So Vygotsky, he was describing children as active, and he pushed forward the importance of context. He talked about the situated learning, that we have to understand that one context is different from another. But just to highlight then and now, as I said in the beginning, there has always been strong links between the national policy documents, the preschool teacher education, and the preschool practice. So, contemporary early childhood education then. What is the philosophy there? So, if we go to the Educational Act, it says that the preschool or the early childhood education should lay the foundations for the first part of children's learning, which will continue for the rest of their lives. So you can see that it's thinking of lifelong learning here. Children should have the opportunity of learning through playing, creating and exploring on their own, in groups and together with adults. The preschool is a separate school form, and its activities are regarded as education and teaching. Teaching takes place under the supervision of preschool teachers, but there may also be other staff to promote the child's development and learning. I should maybe say here that actually a preschool teacher in Sweden have quite high level of education. It's 3.5 years of university studies. So here you can see that the preschool there is the first step on a lifelong learning, so to speak, and the first step in the educational system. So now we've had, let's move into the main points here. And as you might see now, the history that I have described earlier is present also in contemporary times in many ways. So first I will say something about one of the main concepts in Sweden, which would be EDUCARE, and it's actually so famous for us, so some people call it SWEDUCARE. And then I will move into to talk a little bit more on democracy and equality, and then talk a little bit on sustainable development as well. So first, EDUCARE. So this is a fundamental philosophy in Sweden, and I know that you are so, maybe have followed this from the beginning, then you will know, maybe you have noticed that, Fröbel is here. So already Fröbel talked about this, right? Here we see that play, learning, and care cannot be separated. It's impossible to separate them. And this is because children learn in caring environments. So where there's no care for the child, it will be very difficult for the child to learn. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. And also, children learn through play. Okay, so this has to be combined. So that is why preschool teachers, they work all day. I have done a couple of projects together with the Italian preschool of Reggio Emilia. And there, in Reggio Emilia, it's quite different. In Italy, there the preschool teachers, they tend to work in situations coded as learning situations. And that would be, for instance, circle time, that would be art activities, and so forth. But this is not the case in Sweden. In Sweden, the preschool teachers would work all day, from the beginning of the day when the children come and until the children leave all the time. And we need to have actually high qualified preschool teachers during the whole day, just because of that. And as I said before, children need both care and play actually in order to learn. And now we move into some more fundamental values about democracy, equality, and solidarity. Children's influence, together with one of our icons, the figure of Pippi Långstrump, like a mascot of Sweden. So this is from the Education Act, one of our national policy documents, that actually talks about what teachers should do, their obligations. Democracy forms the foundation of preschool. The Education Act stipulates that education in the preschool aims at children acquiring and developing knowledge and values. It should promote all children's development and learning and a lifelong desire to learn. An important task for the preschool is to impart and establish respect for human rights and the fundamental democratic values on which the Swedish society is based. Each and every person working in the preschools should promote respect for the intrinsic value of each person, as well as respect for our shared environment. The inviolability of human life, individual freedom and integrity, the equal value of all people, equality between the genders, as well as solidarity with the weak and vulnerable, are values that the preschool should actively promote in its work with children. So this is an obligation. This is something that teachers have to do. In relation to democracy, I think that democracy in relation to early childhood education and care will be very much about children's influence and children's rights. So that is why I want to share with you today that actually the Convention on the Rights of the Child will become Swedish law in 2020. So It has just been decided. And hopefully it will mean that children will be in greater focus in situations that apply to them, says the Minister of Children, Elderly and Gender Equality, Lena Hallengren. So hopefully it will be even more focus on children's rights in the future, in the whole Swedish society, but not at least in the Swedish early childhood education and care. So more specifically, what might it mean? It could mean that parents, something around parents, since parents should always consider what is best for the child according to this law. So countries should make an effort to help the parents so that they can be better parents. One good way to help the parents is to make sure that there are good preschool or daycare centers where children can stay when their parents are at work. And also, it could be the case that we even more promote children's right to play, to the right to have free time and rest also in early childhood education and care. And I also think that we need to take children's voices more seriously, even more seriously. And I think that we in teacher education maybe have to teach our students more methods, how the students and the preschool students, how they actually can learn how to listen to children's voices in a better way. I mean, for real, really listen to children. The last value I would like to share with you is on education for sustainable development. And this is something that has been very, very important now in the last, becoming increasingly more and more important, but in the last 5 years it's been highly stressed, and also just recently it's been a part of our national policy documents as well. So when we talk about education for sustainable development in early childhood education in Sweden, we talk about 3 things, and they are all combined. It's economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and social sustainability. So here you see the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals for 2015 to 2030, which has been referred to many times here in this conference. And it includes 2 extremely important statements, and which I think is very relevant for the field of early childhood education. And it's goal number 4 that talks about that we should ensure that all girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development care and primary education. And then to ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. And also with these critical outcomes in mind, to see that everyone in the field of early childhood education become knowledgeable and skillful, as knowledgeable and skillful as possible. And of course, we need a lot of training on this. I also want to say to you that I am also a member of this organization, which is called UMEP, which works a lot also with UNESCO, that also works for sustainable development. And at last, I want to highlight 2 very important persons, I think, that has also been very influential in the early childhood education and care in Sweden, not at least as inspiration for the kids, that they actually can do something. Children can do something. Children are active. Children might have power. They can change things. So first of all, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala, and then the climate activist Greta Thunberg, Malala Yousafzai. Have you heard of them? Please say yes, yes. So, I have come to my summary. So, I have talked about a lot of philosophies now, and even if diversity of theories or philosophies still may be present in the Swedish early childhood education and care, there has been a shift in time. And we can see that we have moved from a view on children as nature that we could see in relation to the theories from Fröbel and so forth, towards a view where we think of children as part of and constructing their own culture and their own cultures. There has also been a shift from developmental theories, and where children were seen a little bit as more passive and as maybe becoming someone who should become somebody later on, towards theories on social and cultural construction, and rather to a view on children as actually being someone here right now. And as I said, from a view on children where they are seen as quite passive and depending on adults, towards a view on children where they are seen as active agents, as we talk sometimes about the competent child, and they should have rights and they should have influence. And the last thing that both Malala and Greta symbolizes very well, I think, is that children, from a view where children were seen as a little bit more passive in relation towards future, to a view where children are seen as actively being able to working in solidarity with others to change future as well. So, and with this, I say terima kasih and thank you. And for you who doesn't know, this is from the beautiful city of Bandung, where also the center is located. So, thank you very much.